Hi, everyone. Welcome to the next session of SCOPA. I'm very much looking forward to this particular session because it's a workshop session and we're going to have some questions. It's on supply chain analytics, translating data-driven insights into real value. So at the moment, those of you that have been joining us, you will have seen that we've got a Slido app or a Slido thing that you can show so that you can ask the questions. So before I start to introduce Keith, I'm very excited about the session, but before I introduce Keith, I want to see if you could put up the second slide, which is the, you don't mind there, thank you very much, the slide on Slido. So for those of you that are joining us just now, you need to go to slido.com and you should be able to enter something called SCOPA Digital, yeah, SCOPA Digital. And you'll be able to see the session and ask questions. So Keith is also going to be very excited about, Keith was also very excited about this session. We were talking about it before. He is the partner at R&G Global Consultants. He's going to be telling us how you can translate data-driven insights into real value. Now, I'm going to be opening up the floor for questions. And so there you have it. This session is going to be recorded. If you have any technical difficulties, if you can't get into Slido, let us know, and you can email my colleague Muge, that's M-U-G-E, at futureinsights.org. So there's the QR code to the right. And what you need to do is that you can ask questions. You can start asking questions as soon as Keith starts talking, and then we will do our best afterwards to answer them. So first of all, let me introduce Keith. Keith, why don't you just take yourself off mute? Keith, why don't you introduce yourself and your team, I guess, and I'll hand it over to you guys. Good luck.
Yeah, sure, Maria. Thank you for the warm welcome and a great session so far as well. By the way, I think two great speakers. I'll come to the introductions in a couple of moments. But I think what we really want to lead on from listening to the sessions earlier today. Roddy gave a great talk on the real sort of maturity around analytics. And I think that's really the sweet spot of where R&G plays is helping organizations achieve the next level of maturity when it comes to the analytic evolution. And I think there's a number of key points there that we can touch on. Just a little bit about myself, right? So very briefly, I grew up in the automotive sector, so very much in the operational excellence space. I spent a little bit of time with management consultancy called Accenture. Maybe I've been involved in selling ERP systems here and there, but I claim no responsibility for that. Right now, we come back to the physical process and how to drive those real improvements into the physical process. And I guess just a small statement there from my reflection, which is about fortune favouring the bold. And I think what that really reflects, especially in the space of analytics, driving improvement and performance to the next level. Let's give it a kick. You never know, maybe you'll score a goal. Sam, you want to do a small intro?
I do. Thanks, Keith. Hi, Sam Clark. You can see a nice picture of me on the right-hand side. Just follow on from Keith, my background pre-consulting was operations leadership for a global cosmetics brand. So I've been on the receiving end of some of this as well. You see my tagline in the bottom right, but really I'm passionate about using time effectively and making things better than they were yesterday. And I'll be going through a live demo at the end of this. So I'll hand that back to you, Keith.
Yeah, thanks, Sam. So I guess the flow that we've got for you this afternoon, I want to do a small introduction and set up a little bit around R&G and how we view driving value from those insights that come from analytics. And I think in a very practical way, as certainly as Roddy referred to earlier on today, 2% of improvements often comes from technology. 8% comes from that process improvement space. And so we really so we take the view now that we really like to blend the two and take performance to that next level. So Sam will link into a demonstration where we'll give you an example of how we mine into the data that exists, that sits across supply chain to bring those insights, which are often difficult to kind of get your fingers behind. And then Sam will also show how to link that into process mining and deeper process analytics, all intended to bring well, let's say a new level of understanding and how it can be applied practically to supply chain. And then we'll break for questions towards the end of the session. So I guess just a little bit on R&G. So we evolved sort of 15 years ago out of General Electric, and I guess classically at that time we were involved in very much operational excellence end to end across the supply chain, tackling the classical business issues around on-time delivery and cost productivity, along with working capital. And let's say 15 years ago, it was about classical improvement methodologies and techniques that I'm sure we are all very conversant with. And I guess as an organisation, over the last 5 to 7 years, we've really had to evolve the way that we operate. So less in that kind of classical, lean and maybe Six Sigma space, and now more into how to embrace this digital transformation that many of us are on. There are many simple, accessible, effective digital tools out there in the marketplace now that really allow organizations to drive performance improvement digitally to the next level. And I guess, why do we do this? Classical operational excellence, I guess, 15 years ago would give us an ROI, a return on investment of somewhere in the region of up to 10 times. And what we find now, certainly with putting the process behind data-driven leadership and analytics, and the chance to kind of increase value and improve that return on investment and deliver it in a shorter time frame has really sort of magnified itself. I think just a little bit of how we view the whole improvement landscape and how we help our clients drive towards those new levels of performance whilst embracing the tools that are available out there. I think what's important to recognize, and certainly at R&G, we are ultimately a business and organization that likes to deliver outcomes for our clients. So we are absolutely not the technology provider. We're not going to be recommending an ERP platform that's now required for the next step of your journey. But I guess that, from our experience, the way that we like to lead organizations towards improvement is to start with, the impact area in mind, and classical, topics such as productivity, working capital, service, addressing cost to serve. This kind of left-hand side of the page are really the areas that we bring impact towards into organizations. We then critically apply that process focus. So again, whether it's in supply chain or in the four walls of the factory within manufacturing, or even in the commercial end of the supply chain with order to cash and procure to pay, we always bring that process lens to the improvements that are delivered. So I think and Roddy also touched on it a little bit earlier today, it's making sure that you can apply the insights and the data and really bring the meaning towards the physical process itself. Something else we then lead into is the core methodology that we organize around. So as we say, it's not just about the digital tooling and analytics itself, but we like to make sure that we start with the end in mind. So there is core methodology that we use that will allow us to drive operational performance into each of those kind of key areas, be it supply chain or more in the manufacturing space. And then I guess it comes to really what this event is largely about, and it's the access now that we all have towards digital tooling. So whether it's data mining and data science, or whether it links into process mining, visualization is absolutely key now, and then that also links into analytics and a little bit in the AI and the automation space as well. I guess the key point is that there is a plethora of digital tooling now available that will allow you to really stitch together different data sets to present and to provide those new views of performance that you kind of always sensed were there, but now you really wanted to to put the visuals behind behind that data and really take the meaning from the data. Well, there is a wealth of digital tools that are available to you, and as I mentioned earlier, Sam will take us through the kind of data mining and the process mining piece as a small example. And last but not least, I think whenever we talk about delivering real value from analytics, what can't be understated is the absolutely mission critical is this element of change leadership, and making sure that we can put accountability around any digital change or digital transformation that's embarked upon. And I guess linking to that change leadership, we talk about cultural values, we talk about execution reliability, and we talk about change management. And so, yeah, certainly what we find from our experience, the successful projects are able to really kind of pick their way through this minefield. And it really never, it's certainly not a one size fits all approach, which is perhaps why the screen looks, a little bit, maybe a little bit complicated, but absolutely, once you get started, then the opportunities will present themselves. And I think a nice way to kind of summarize it, if as supply chain leaders, you sense that there is value, around the organization, you sense that the value is there in the air. Well, we like to use, data mining and analytics to really put that value on the table. And then moving forward into change leadership, we use that kind of change cultural values piece and that execution reliability piece to put that value then into the pocket. So as I say, we at R&G, we put the kind of the data-driven leadership, we put the process behind data-driven leadership. So it's not about, analysis for analysis sake. It's really not about creating an army of data scientists. Many times we see organizations that have the most beautiful and the most brilliant dashboards. But I think, certainly as a service provider, we are always, absolutely on the hook to make sure that we deliver value to our clients. And so the way that we like to view the use of data and the use of analytics is basically to make the statement, and Roddy made the same statement earlier on today. We talk about this kind of container word of big data. What does that really mean? It means many different things, many different organizations, but at the end of the day, within any classical supply chain organization, whether it's a CRM tool or an ERP tool or a manufacturing execution system, there is an absolute wealth of data that exists across many different systems. And so I guess our view, to be quite honest, is really that there is probably already enough data in and around the supply chain to be able to unlock the insights that are required to then take performance to that next level. So again, it's not our view. It won't be our recommendation that organizations go out to buy new software platforms to then find new data. I think the reality is that the data is already existing. And then once we get access to the data, it's really then about putting the leadership behind how analytical you want to be and how data driven as an organization you're going to become. And so start with the end in mind. Absolutely, what's critical behind data driven, behind the thinking of data driven leadership is that we have a clear business purpose. So as described earlier, whether that's to deliver productivity or improved on-time delivery, or to kind of reduce the overall working capital in the business, we want to be absolutely crystal clear on what that business purpose is. And then we link into the data itself. And the question is always how to, let's say, exploit the maximum value and get your return on data. Before you exploit the value from the data, it's also key to make sure that you can, well, A, identify that the data exists within your systems, which very often it does. And then B, make sure that you can extract that data in a meaningful way and put the structure to that data in spite of, how disparate the systems may be, in spite of how unstructured that data may be. Those barriers now are pretty much eliminated through some of the, well, Sam will give a small demonstration a little bit later on around data mining. Once you've got the right access to the right data, clearly then it's about the analytical piece, so as Roddy mentioned again earlier today, the analytics can trend from the transactional analytics on one hand up to predictive analytics on the other hand. And I think it's absolutely imperative that organizations recognize where they are on the analytical journey. But I think that the brutal reality often is many organizations will strive to kind of get a better crystal ball, right, and improve the predictability and improve the forecast accuracy. Whereas certainly from our experience, 80% of the value that can be extracted from supply chain is very often and just making sure that you execute, repeatably and in a reproducible fashion all the way through the supply chain. And so our analytics is very much focused absolutely focused on the predictability, but also on the execution reliability all the way through the supply chain. Analysis needs to result in the insights. So what are those paradigm shifts? What are those new views of performance that can be created from that analysis? You then, well, I guess aspirationally, you want to create the mental headspace within the working teams across supply chain to then take the right decisions, to then execute on the improvements in hand, ultimately to bring about that business impact. And yeah, absolutely, there is then the wrap around the process, which is the operating systems. How do you manage that heartbeat of supply chain on a day-by-day basis, using the right data to bring the right insights, to manage the right performance levels, and then ongoing build the capabilities across our business as well. So in a nutshell, it's kind of when we talk about analytics for organizations and analytics to bring real business impact. Well, this is the process, the data-driven leadership process that we put behind analytics. Again, just linking to the point that it's absolutely not a technology or a tool push. On the left-hand side of the screen here, you'll see, right, it's kind of a standard core methodology that we organize around at R&G, and that methodology is used to tackle the classical dilemmas that we see with any supply chain organizations. It's about managing service to your customer, at the optimal cost, and also with the minimum investments of working capital. But really, to make that happen, it's making sure that we organize the people in the right way, get the processes structured correctly, and drive capabilities around those operating systems. And this is where now the digital tooling, be it process mining, be it data mining, a little bit into the machine learning and AI, that really gives us the chance to accelerate the impact in a shorter time frame. So Sam is going to run through a couple of examples. It basically links to how do we hunt for that elusive next level of supply chain productivity and really focus on supply chain costs. And also we'll link to an example of making sure that we get the customer what they want and when they want it every day, and we'll show how we link the data across different systems across the typical supply chain to bring that insight. And again, it really is about making sure that we link the physical process to the data that resides within the supply chain, and the tools which are now, the barrier to entry in terms of the digital tooling to drive performance improvement. It's getting lower and lower, as the months roll by. Some tools and some partners that we rely heavily upon to deliver our outcomes. Working from right to left, we've got the supply chain optimization partnership with Lamasoft. We've got the process mining partnership there with Celonis. We do a lot of visualization using classical tools. It can be Power BI, again, very low barrier to entry. We do the analytics piece using classically Minitab, maybe there are other statistical packages as well that we refer to. And Sam is going to give us a demonstration there of how we extract that data using the system called Alteryx. But it's really not about the system. It's more about the capability that puts into the organization. Sam, if I can ask you to come off mute and then pick up the thread.
Yeah, thank you, Keith. Hello, everybody. As Keith mentioned, I'm going to spend a little bit of time giving you some practical views of what Keith's shown up to now. So we talk data mining and data science. You can see on the right-hand side, this is a representation of all the possible CRM, ERP, and other systems available out there. I think Subhasis, if you were in his session earlier, talked about this data pool, data lake, and I think that really reinforces the data is there in your organization, and the real value is, if you talk data science with data mining in mind, if you think data science always presented as having the IT, the access to the data itself, the mathematical statistical capability, but then also the organizational and practical knowledge, and really data mining software is available, right? It's available on the market today, but really having the mathematical statistical capability and the business, the contextual knowledge, that's where the value is. As Keith mentioned, starting with the end in mind, it's very easy to get into a rabbit hole when it comes to data mining, but I'll show you a brief example in a second. Let's go to the next slide, Keith, please. So when you have the data with the view in mind and you've structured it in the right way, what you want to do is to be able to visualize the performance of the business. And we're going to show a small use case on on-time delivery, but with RNG's twist, which is a span where we really look at the variability of the on-time delivery performance. So what the customer really feels, they don't feel 80, 90% on-time delivery. They feel days, weeks later than they expected it to be. And then also connecting the lead time, the usage of lead time, the time elapsed between each step. If you can orientate your process towards a standard lead time and you execute against it, you will always give the customer what they want when they want it. And I'll show you how we did that in a visualization tool. And then the next slide, Keith. And then to go even further and deeper, I'm sure you've all sat in sessions where you'll do a process mapping activity, brown paper post-it notes the traditional way, and maybe you'll get the key process almost to the point, but it takes a lot of time and a lot of effort. Process mining software enables you to create that digital twin of your business, and then you can see using the data how far you are from where you want or expect to be, so that fit gap. And then you can take the necessary activity to reduce the fit gap between where you are today and where you want to be. And obviously that increases the timeliness and efficiency, it reduces the costs, and it delights your customers. So if I could just take over, Keith, if you wouldn't mind. Thank you. So we talked about data mining and data science. So this is a piece of software called Ultrex. And if you think your data exists in your organization today in ERP, CRM, and other systems, you could spend a lot of money on an IT solution, of course, and I'm not criticizing that. But if you want real pace and dynamism and flexibility, these ETL extract, transfer, load tools like Ultrex give you the capability to do on-the-fly analysis, on-the-fly data structure manipulation. So you can do it as just a single event, or you can put it in between your CRM and your analysis system in a more structured way. So you could make it part of your business architecture. Well, it's quite simple that you can go through different transactional steps. You see each one of these visualizations here it's a transaction being carried out. So I'm not going to go through what the transactions mean because it's not relevant at the minute, but if you bring together the people with the necessary data capability with the statistical and mathematical backgrounds required to get to a view, and also supplement that with the business context, with a view of what impact, what you want to measure in mind, very quickly you can go from a fragmented data lake to something that enables you to really measure business performance. And then if we want to take this one step further, that outcome of that data will enable you to create an operating system and an environment that the whole organization starts to see performance and spend time around in a single data set. And the visualization you see on screen here is just a start page. But what that start page does is it aligns, if you think of the green boxes as the operational part of the business, the do, and you think of the blue boxes as you guys, the leadership of the business, the people that are doing things day to day, they can be sure that if they take the right decision or a decision that positively affects the business, it's going to be visible to the leadership team. So it takes away it increases the speed because it takes away a lot of the discussions and disagreements because you're orientating yourself around a single accepted data set. So this is a real example of a real project where this organization, $4 billion business, had a real issue with on-time delivery. And this business manufactured and distributed network infrastructure things. And you can well imagine if you were a large telco and you wanted to upgrade the Wi-Fi speed of a particular area of a country, and you didn't have the infrastructure materials you required on time in full, hugely detrimental to the business. So using the Ultrix data set that we created within less than 2 weeks, we managed to create a view of performance, of service delivery performance in their terminology. And you see on the probability plot here, we have each blue dot is an individual order, so it's one order. And if we line all the orders up from the very earliest provided to the very latest provided, we get a view of the experience of the customer. And 0 here, so the target is the customer requested delivery date being the same as the actual delivery date. And because we were able to organize the data up front, we were able to furnish this data set with additional intelligence, such as whether the order was provided in a certain time, what type of customer do we want to look at, whether it was a particular type of product, Incoterms, and other things, because very quickly, using data mining and connecting that data, you can create this view. So if we look at the performance here, where this differs from a traditional on-time delivery metric, where you might see a percentage, this would have been somewhere around 60%. What we talk about here is the span performance between the order in the 5th percentile, and in this case, in the order in the 95th percentile. So 90% of all the orders in this time period for this plant, we see a span of 33 days. So we see 4 days early and 29 days late. And what that does is give a better reflection, a more accurate reflection of what the customer really experiences, because they don't experience 60%, they experience X days later than they plan to. But like with anything, so same with a typical on-time delivery measure, this is measuring the past. It measures what happened some time ago. And the real value, and connecting to some of the sessions I've seen today, is what I want to be able to do is predict my performance. I want to understand where my performance will be if I don't make a change, or what do I need to do in order to improve. And we can flick here just in a couple of clicks from external sales, so closed orders, to a model of what the open orders, so the orders that are not yet fulfilled, what they would look like if we took a snapshot of today. So the actual delivery date is today's date for this view. And we see that if we do nothing, we have about 25% of orders already late. So I need to organize around them. And I have an opportunity to affect 75% of orders positively by doing something to ensure they don't surpass this 0 day. And there's all manner of different drill downs available on the right hand side to look at it by product or by group or by further different views of plants. And what this enables the team to do is, by flicking through the different aspects of this report, I can get down to a single order, and I can see its individual performance and the necessary information so I can make the right decision. I can extract this, I can take action, knowing that if I do the right thing and I have a positive impact, I'm going to positively affect the overall measure target of success, which in this example is span on-time delivery. So using Keith's triangle of the 3 aspects of want to affect positively in a supply chain, this is very much oriented towards the top, service. But then if you want to go to the next level of detail and take service and cost into view, we can use a piece of software called Celonis. And what Celonis does is it creates that digital twin of your current process. And using the transactional data from a system, the timestamp data, it organizes the process into its events. And we can see here that this is another bit slightly different business than before, but it's still a process by which they provide goods and they're delivered, and there's an invoice raised. So if you were to do a traditional process mining activity, you would probably brown paper, post-it note, you'll probably get to some kind of view of this, the dominant process, the process that occurs the most frequently. But what Celonis enables you to do is you can zoom, you take all the different orders that go through your process, so 19.1 million cases in this example. And you see the true process spaghetti. So each one of these lines is a route, and within a route, number of orders travel. And you can see actually the complexity in the process is far greater than we could ever have mapped by hand. So you see the real process complexity, and then you can start to ask the questions as to why do the routes not follow the dominant route, or the route that I designed that I would want it to follow. And then by taking that, so what? Interesting, great to see that, but really I want to make a change. I want to affect performance. And so here we have a on-time delivery performance of this data set. And what we can do in a smart way now is we can start to zoom in and segment the process and say, actually, holds, I don't want anything to be on hold, because a hold means it doesn't move through the process. I want to look at the performance of a route that has holds, and I see 63% on-time delivery performance of everything that goes through hold. So I can make a decision here that if I positively affect the steps, so I get rid of holds, I know my my on-time delivery performance is going to be increased, because 83% is less than the overall data set, which is 87. You can then start to drill into first time right activity. You can code it to say, I only want to go through this process step once. You can start to set alerts in the system to say, if this situation occurs, I want to be alerted. I want someone to do something to organize the process to stop the things that contribute to poor on-time delivery from occurring. You can, rather than looking at order line quantities, you can look at the value, so you can get into the cost to serve, the productivity element of the supply chain. So it really allows you to leverage the data you have in your business to go to that next level of detail. Keith, that's me done. I'm going to pass the ball back to you.
Yeah.
Great. Actually, I'm gonna jump in now, and I'm gonna say, because I know we've got some questions and we've got some polls and we've got some things to ask. So I think, Tom, if we can maybe put up our slide again, so we can go into the Slido bit and we can start to ask questions. So again, for those of you that are just joining or watching, if you haven't done it already, scan the QR code, and that'll take you into hashtag SCOPA that you need to type in, but you want to go into a room called WS1 Supply Chain Analytics, which is the workshop 1. And once you're there, I think we can just move on to the next slide and start asking the questions that we have for you guys, because no doubt there will be some questions there. So Tom, can we go to the next slide? There we go. Oh, we've got a poll, an open poll. Do you think your current, let me just move stuff. Do you think your current data-driven ability enables you to maximize business impact? All right, everyone. Fingers at the, there you go. Let's start seeing what you think of this. Do you think your current data-driven ability enables you to maximize business impact? It's important for you to give us some insight. Remember, this is anonymous. We don't know who is voting in any way. We want to be able to get some views of the industry and what you're all thinking. Keith, is this the kind of question that you ask regularly? I mean, is this the kind of thing that you ask your people you talk to? Yeah,
absolutely. I think it's a question that industry asks itself week by week. It's not to position ourselves as we are the guys that know everything about data-driven analytics. That's absolutely not the case. But I think in terms of getting the return on your data, it's a very relevant topic in supply chain today. You know, the buzzword is the democratization of data. Well, if data is going to become so democratized, it's absolutely about making sure that we can get the return on that business impact. That's clearly where we like to help organizations, and I think it's a question that many organizations are asking themselves at the moment.
I mean, looking at this, I mean, I know not many people are answering because people like to sort of see what other people are saying, but is it sort of in line with your thinking or what you're seeing in the market?
Yeah, I think so. It's always the question. It really is how to get started and how to know where you are on the journey. And I think the brutal reality, the fact of the matter is, everybody's journey is somewhat different. And so to know that you fully maximised your business impact is I think it's a pretty privileged position if you know that you're already on top of the game. I think the reality is there is always room for the next level of improvement. Certainly that's what we see.
Let's go to the next question, because I know a lot of companies are not where they want to be. And so it's going to be important to find out why. So what is holding you back? You know, what is holding people back from achieving the goals that they have with regards to data? Is it technology? Is it resource capacity, resource capability, data availability, business or IT disconnectedness? And I think it's important that we get some view on where we are with that. You know, with, let's see, I would say, what do you see that normally people answer?
In line with what we see there, Maria, I think, you know, that disconnectedness, there is a miss absolutely now that, you know, IT needs to drive the technological advancement within the business to enable analytics. It's really not the case. I think that you know, that connectedness that we can achieve between a business and the IT, I think that difference gets smaller and smaller as we evolve through this kind of digital analytics space. Resource capability, absolutely. But then equally, you know, I think one key aspect of data-driven leadership is to make sure that those resources can be provided at the right time and to the right quality.
I have a question for you. I mean, Roddy mentioned it something towards the end of his presentation about the fact that most companies underestimate the power that data-driven leadership can have on their business. And it's because they have this assumption that everything is already in their ERP. You know, what are the risks of not becoming a data-driven business today?
I think the risk really, Maria, is kind of as Sam described, with this kind of simple measurements of span performance for on-time delivery, you know, without using the data at the granular level, at the transactional level, which is where, you know, where we really operate. Very often you leave, well, number one, you leave value on the table. Number two, you don't present the performance of your business as your customer experiences your performance. And so on one hand, you know, leaders are correct in that the data resides within the ERP system. Our view is don't leave that data in the ERP systems, take that data out, connect it to, you know, the other business functions, other business systems, to get that kind of real end-to-end view of what your performance really is at that transactional level. That's where the real value is placed, and the risk is if you choose not to accept that value. Sorry, it's someone at the door. It's all right. It's Corona, right? We work from home these days. Yeah, the risk is you leave the data on the table, you leave the value on the table as well, Maria, and clearly, you know, we want the data to translate into real business impact, get that value in the pocket. And so what are the, there you go. Do you think companies in general have a clear digital roadmap? I was just going to ask something like that. Feel free to answer it. Yeah, it's, I guess it's a mixed bag, to be quite honest. Ultimately, I think the biggest issue with any digital strategy of any organization is making sure you have the end in mind, making sure you're clear on the outcome that you want to deliver. I think with many organizations, certainly from our experience, we think that they fall into the trap of thinking that data-drivenness or digitalness or digital transformation should involve somebody else, and we kind of create a team of data scientists or BI enthusiasts. Really, it always needs to come back to the physical process and needs to link to a clear specific outcome. And the second question is, why are companies failing with the data strategy? I think it's the lack of, clearly it can come down to a number of different topics. I think it's the lack of, the lack of the right level of resources with the right level of capability across the business. I think it's also the persistence of the myths that can often exist that as the data resides within ERP systems, that to get to the next solution we're going to buy or invest in another ERP system. I think that they're kind of two key elements of why organizations fail with their strategy. But again, it's also that razor sharp focus that's required at the outset of any transformation project is critical, not just for general improvement, but also for digital and data-driven improvements. And without that end in mind, you fail to hit the impact. If you don't hit the impact, then very often you can kind of get weighed down with your own lack of clarity around the digital approach and the data strategy.
I think unfortunately we've reached the end of our session. We had a couple other questions, but we've reached the end. I want to thank you both for being part of this session. If people want to find out more information about RNG, where do they need to go?
www.rnggc.com is our website. You can find me also on LinkedIn. Absolutely.
Great. Well, we will see you at our next session at 3 p.m. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for joining us.